Hi, this is Ed with Contender Bicycles. Today we're going to give you a brief overview of a tubeless road setup. I'm going to go through how you mount, seat, seal, and then inflate the wheel and get it ready to roll. I'm going to show you a couple of the things you need to do the job, and we'll talk a little bit about the differences between the road tubeless wheel and tire and then a standard road tube setup. Okay, the main components of a tubeless road wheel setup are the tubeless specific tire, the road tubeless rim, and the components of the rim itself are the tubeless valve, which inserts into the rim and then seals via this threaded collar. And then there is a sealing tape that goes around the inside of the rim to seal the spoke holes so they don't leak when you pressurize it. And then the channel that runs along the inside of this rim is important. It's a little bit deeper than on a standard road rim. And what that accomplishes is it makes the effective diameter of the rim smaller so that when you put the beads in the rim, it gives you more room to get the beads up and over the outside of the rim. So, the other components important in this job are tubeless sealant, tire lever. This little tool will help you remove the valve core out of the tubeless valve stem when we get to that point. And then I like to use a little bit of soapy water in a spray bottle to help lubricate the tire beads, which helps them seat into the rim a little bit easier once you pressurize it. So we're going to start with the valve at the bottom, and we're going to start at the valve, seating the first part of the bead and working our way back up to it. So we'll go around. We're going to get that first section of tire bead onto the rim. And as I mentioned before, there's that center channel, and we want to use that as much as possible to keep that, whatever bead you're working with, we want to keep it in that channel as much as possible, because that'll make getting it finished up here at the top a lot easier. So once you get up towards the valve, we'll get our tire lever. And just like with the tube type tire, we'll start working that bead up and over the rim. And it helps to go in small increments and be patient and just slide that tire lever along. And you'll see that first part of the beads pops right in. And then we're gonna get the next half of the bead. Again, working from the valve, we're gonna work our way back around to it. And as we go along, as we start getting that bead over the rim, this is where we want to go through and make sure that that part of the bead that we've already put on is down in that channel, because that's going to make the rest of this section of bead a lot easier to get up and over. And I've kind of gone past the valve, but that's going to be okay, because what we'll do is we'll just use the tire lever to finish the job. So then while I hold the bead on down here, we're gonna get that tire lever and start there again, working in small increments. Be patient and just slide it along in small doses. There we go. So now, before we get ready to inflate it, make sure everything is where we want it to be. We want to make sure that the tire bead is over the valve. Sometimes that valve stem likes to poke up. So we want to make sure the bead is seated on either side of the valve. And this is where the soapy water comes in. I like to spray a little bit along the rim channel. And this won't affect the sealant, and it certainly won't hurt the tire and wheel. This just lubricates the bead a little bit and makes it so when we inflate it, that tire bead is going to seat nice and easy. It's possible to do it without it with a compressor, but we're going to do this with a hand pump, partially to show you how easy it is, and also because it's a lot quieter, and most people have a hand pump, not everyone has a compressor. Get our hand pump set up. Okay, so I've got about 80 PSI of pressure in the tire right now. With most tubeless setups, just like with a mountain bike, you'll hear the bead seat. You'll hear a snap when it seats. And now that the tire is seated, we're ready to do the sealant. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take the valve core out using the valve core tool. Loosen it up, thread that out. Tire's obviously going to depressurize, but the bead will stay seated, and that's important. So with the valve core removed, we're going to take our syringe with tubeless tire sealant. We're going to just sit that over the valve. And now for a road tubeless wheel, you want to follow the manufacturer's recommendations as far as how much sealant to use. And one thing to consider as well is once the sealant is in here on this initial setup, a lot of that sealant is going to absorb into the tire, into the micro fissures that were inside the tire, and along the seating surface with the rim. So you will have to top the sealant off, and we go over that in the write-up a little bit. So we'll go ahead and inject that in. And then using a paper towel, go ahead and remove the syringe. Kind of wipe off any excess sealant that comes out. Most of that's down on the bottom of the tire now, so we should be good. And thread that valve core back in and get ready to inflate the tire back to its operating pressure. Now that the valve core is reinstalled, we're going to go ahead and air the tire back up to its normal pressure where you would run it, probably about, in this case, about 60 PSI. Now with the tire back up at about 60 PSI, which is an average of where you might ride this tire, we'll take the pump off, close the valve stem. And now what most manufacturers will want you to do is once it's to this point where the sealant is in, it's seated, it's pressurized, you want to install the wheels, get out there and ride them. And what that'll accomplish is getting the sealant properly distributed within the tire, and the added pressure of riding it will help force the sealant into those micro fissures within the tire and the sidewall, and also help seal that rim. And then the next day, maybe 24 hours later, you want to top off the sealant a little bit. And after that, you should have months and months of trouble-free riding. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call or visit us at contenderbicycles.com, or we would love to have you come into either of our 2 locations in Salt Lake City or Park City, Utah, and we'll be happy to help you out and get you set up.